Jesus' whole mission was about what? About making a difference in people's lives. Jesus was a real person. He was born, he ate, he laughed, he loved, and even died. Always choosing new life, a new way of living with others. But the reality is that his whole ministry was challenged each and every day. His experience was that there were a lot of people who were considered unclean and outside God's care and love by the religious leaders. Didn't sit right with him though. Somehow it just did not make sense, because he knew the very heart of his Father, and he knew the very heart of his life. Jesus just could not buy into a religious interpretation of God as a God of wrath, a God of retribution, a God of punishment. He learned all about the law, about those who don't follow the food rules, those who didn't clean their dishes as prescribed by the law, and subsequently were condemned or punished by God according to the religious leaders. Jesus listened and learned about all the laws that said you can only walk so far or lift so much on a Sabbath. Even if someone needed help, follow the law. He even heard that what was wrong in creation was seen as God's way of punishing the world. Sickness, poverty, death, blindness, lameness, deafness, all seen as coming from God's wrath or God's retribution or God's laws, which place them outside of salvation, wholeness, and fullness of life. Literally all those people cut off from God and God's way. Some were clean and some were not. Some were saved and others were not. And we ended up, and Jesus' biggest problem was that we ended up reverencing and worshiping traditions more than reverencing people. The widow, the orphan, the homeless, the aged, the poor, the abused. Our laws became more important. So many people knew the law. We all know the laws too. We know the letter of the law. But sometimes it's so easy to forget the inner sense of the law. That love of God, that love of neighbor. It's so easy, as Jesus says, to honor him with our lips. So we can do that all day in here. So we can pray and pray and pray. But keeping our hearts far from him. Because we have to take our heart out there. So Jesus tells us what God invites us, that when God invites us into God's culture or God's way of life, mercy and forgiveness have to come first. Someone has said that the last 7 words of the church are, "We've never done it this way before." The true Spirit of God in each and every one of us is feeling and knowing that we are forgiven, that we are loved, and that we are always creating new possibilities in life. That goes for every single one of us. And we can't forget that we are forgiven and we are loved. In Jesus, God bends down from the heaven to share our world, our lives, our place. You are forgiven. You are good. You are loved. You are my beloved. Say that loudly. You are my beloved. We have to believe that. We have to come to believe that. Because love can be messy in this world. Today, Jesus reminds us to be doers of the word and not mere hearers of the word. What proceeds from the heart is from God. This week, I pray that we'll let our hearts guide our thoughts and our actions, sharing with someone God's mercy, God's forgiveness, and inviting them to see what it means to live according to God's way and to be one of God's beloved. God bless you.